Good morning, everyone. Lots going on, and I saw an article written by Spencer Fernando talking about Chrystia Freeland, and it was attached to this article. It's a global news article talking about the Khashoggi killing. So it says Canada pushed for probe into the Khashoggi killing directly with the UN human rights chief. And basically what happened is Canada said the law was broken there, and some people agreed that the international law was broken when Saudi agents attacked and killed Khashoggi in their embassy. Okay, so Canada wanted to instigate an investigation into this, and the UN Security Council said, no, sorry. And I was going to read a lot of this, but I wanted to show, it's interesting to me, and it was interesting to Mr. Fernando as well, but it's interesting that Miss Freeland got promoted. She got promoted to Deputy Prime Minister, and Deputy Prime Minister isn't traditionally, in recent modern history anyway, how the succession works. It was done by order of succession. Mr. Harper had an order in Parliament, I believe, and I'm probably there's probably a specific term for it that I'm forgetting, and I'm not going to go look for it right now. But he had succession mapped out that way. It wasn't Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, blah 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 blah. And I mean, the title was a ornamental title, right? It was just like respectful, right? Other people had more power. Anyway, it's interesting that the missteps Miss Freeland has made have led to her getting promoted into this position that actually has teeth, right? Is not ceremonial, is actually a powerful position. And I mean, the world is, she made Saudi Arabia angry via Twitter. She has been ignored largely by China. We're going to look at that in a minute. And there's a lot of really important negotiations that are going on between China and Canada right now. Huawei, 5G, a lot of billions of dollars in trade. And I mean, China dwarfs us. It's interesting, all of this stuff. So you promote her, right? After winning the election, a month later, Justin Trudeau announced his cabinet, which is 2 weeks longer than he took in 2015, whatever. A month long to decide in a minority cabinet. And then, don't do anything for 10 or 12 or 15 days. Wait till December 5th to bring back Parliament, right? That's what you do. But you promote Miss Freeland. Why? I don't get it. So Miss Freeland quarterbacked this push to investigate Khashoggi. And sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. I didn't follow this because it seemed like CNN was so enamored with it. It was everywhere. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know what they're trying to shove down my throat, but I'm not interested. So I ignored it pretty much. But I think it's interesting that they were trying to push for this, and the UN kind of just said, because, and this article points it out, that the other parties, the people, the UN Security Council members, basically have a vested interest in the investigation not happening. So says Global News. So it's interesting. That kind of stuff is interesting, right? Here's going back to May for looking at Chrystia Freeland's diplomatic missteps. It's the BNN Bloomberg saying Freeland says Chinese minister won't talk with her about detainees. I remember talking about this way back in May, saying this is the equivalent of Miss Freeland saying to people, hello, please call me. I'm waiting for your call. I'd love to hear from you, right? She says, quote, I'd be happy at any time to have a direct conversation with Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister. We've been clear with the Chinese authorities that we're prepared for that conversation at any time. Please call me, right? So, I mean, that's interesting to note. Here's another, and this is June 13th. So the first one was May 28th. Love to talk with you. Then June 13th, that wasn't working. So she'll issue a statement. So and here's CBC News reporting. China issues warning after Canada raises concerns over planned extradition law. Here's Freeland's statement, quote, Canada remains concerned about the potential effects these proposals may have on the large number of Canadian citizens in Hong Kong, on business confidence, and on Hong Kong's international reputation, said Freeland in a written statement Wednesday. Freedom of expression and assembly are the bedrock of Hong Kong's free society. It is vital that any legislation preserve Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy, rule of law, and independent judiciary. A few hours later, the Chinese embassy in Canada put out its own statement. Hong Kong affairs are purely China's internal affairs, it read. No other country, organization, or individual has the right to interfere in. Recently, some people from the Canadian government made irresponsible and erroneous comments on the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government's amendment to the ordinance and other Hong Kong affairs. quote, "We deplore and firmly oppose this, ... I don't know if this is taking out more of the embassy's statement for brevity, or if that's in the statement. I'm not sure. I apologize. But the link to the full statement's right here. Back to it. We urge the Canadian side to exercise caution in its words and deeds, stop intervening in the normal legislative process of the Hong Kong SAR, and stop in whatever form interfering in Hong Kong affairs and China domestic affairs." Here's Ms. Freeland, and she says she has a meeting. This is August 2nd, so the summer has come and gone. And, well, I guess this is the dog days of summer, August 2nd, and she gets a meeting with Chinese counterpart to talk about detainees, CTV News is reporting. And Spavor and Korvig were not released and have not been released. And yet on August 2nd, Ms. Freeland says, this is in this article, quote, "Freeland was quick to characterize her conversation with Wang as evidence of progress, albeit incremental. The fact that we were able to speak and discuss these issues face to face directly with one another absolutely is a positive step." I suppose so, but what happens when you get to talk face to face with somebody and nothing changes? Right? Is that a positive step, or is that just we're exactly where we were before? We stepped and like right in line, right exactly where we were before. Right? That's kind of what it seems like. And well, we're in almost December, right? November 28th, or 29th now. Wild. Happy Black Friday, everyone. And I forgot to say to my American viewers, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're enjoying the Black Friday sales. And in Canada, too, there's lots of wonderful deals online. Ooh, a commercial halfway through my show? Weird. Okay, back to this. Here's going forward to August 18th. China tells Canada to stop meddling after Freeland condemns Hong Kong violence, right? And this is on to Andrew Scheer, which we'll get to in a minute. But fundamentally, do you promote that? You say, great job. China ignored you, good. And Saudi Arabia, you really ticked them off too. Have the prime minister's chair, why don't you? It sounds like Andrew Scheer. Oh, are you a former liberal? Would you like to run the party? I mean, really. This is a weird coordinated thing, though. This is what People's Party people were talking about last year when everybody said, no, we have to vote Andrew Scheer because he's the only one who can get Justin Trudeau out. We all said he's a weak leader. He won't win, period. And we were right. And now it seems like the press, instead of focusing on the fact that Trudeau hasn't done anything in a month, the election happened in October and we don't get back to work until December. Come on. There's important things happening in the world. Frustrating. But aside from that, the CBC News articles and more are breathless about getting rid of Scheer. Robin Urbach says Andrew Scheer is having trouble finding people to stand in his corner for the simple reason that he's never actually staked one out. My column in the Globe and Mail. Here's another one. Ottawa area campaign managers call for Scheer's resignation at a private event. Well, okay. I mean, I'm not surprised at all, but at the same time, it just seems really, the timing seems weird when we have a prime minister who's got a minority and you're like, that conservative guy, he's awful. I mean, look in the PM's office. What has he done? What has he worked on? What meaningful thing has he done since the election? How many greenhouse gases did they take out of the environment with their carbon tax? At all. In any province? No? Can't answer that, Miss McKenna? Frustrating. Back to global news. And this is moving on from why would you promote Chrystia Freeland? This is moving on from all that. Here we go. And moving on from Andrew Scheer as well. Toronto man who tried to join ISIS was freed a month after his release was declared an undue risk. And I'm just going to scroll down here. It talks about other similar people. It talks about other similar people who were let out when the public security, public safety was a concern to many people, and that concern was brought before the judge, and the judge just lets them out. Anyway, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's the important part. It says, but documents obtained by Global News under Ontario's Freedom of Information legislation show his parole was denied just 4 weeks before he was let out. According to the documents, which took the government 5 months to release, Hakimazadan, sorry if I got that wrong. I know I got that wrong. Waived his right for a parole hearing, writing he would prefer release in June due to supervision. But the parole board nonetheless considered his parole without his participation because he was eligible for release on May 29th after having served half his remaining sentence. The board wrote in its decision that it had received limited information and did not receive a police report or a occurrence report. Therefore, the board does not have the particulars of the applicant's offenses. Hakimzada did not provide a release plan, it added. A professional assessment was completed for the applicant given the serious nature of his offenses, according to the decision. The applicant declined to participate in the clinical interview, and thus there is no information available to the board regarding his background, social history, substance use, or any mental health concerns or treatment concerns that need to be addressed. Much of the board's decision was blacked out prior to being released to Global News, but it noted Hakimzadeh was serving a sentence for an act of terror and indictable assault. Given the above, the board is of the view that releasing the applicant on parole would constitute an undue risk to society and would not contribute to the protection of society by facilitating the applicant's reintegration into society, it read. Therefore, parole is denied. Under the terms of his probation, Hakimzadeh cannot possess firearms or obtain a passport and must undergo psychotherapy and meet weekly with an imam from the Risala Foundation. And I'm just wondering, how much mental health training do imams have? Because I worked in mental health, and I know that, there's a lot more that goes into fixing someone than weekly meetings, even with religious leaders. Here's a massive thread, and Maggie Fiverr has been keeping it up to date. This is all the SNC Lavalin newspaper articles, and this person notes something interesting, and I noted this as well. Very few big papers are posting big articles about this. Of course, I'm looking at the Globe and Mail and the National Post, but it's sporadic, right? It's a lot of the time it's the Montreal Gazette. So on October 31st, National Post posts fraud corruption trial underway from former SNC Lavalin executive Sami Babawi. And then the Globe and Mail on November 1st, the trial of former SNC executive. Here's how. November 5th, Montreal Gazette, which is under local news here, it says SNC Lavalin witness who offered $10 million for favorable testimony. And I covered this November 15th, Montreal Gazette. You'd think this would be a bigger news. And maybe this Twitter person is just cherry picking. But I look around for this kind of stuff, and it's harder and harder to find. So it's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to do a full readout of this stuff. Here's CTV News reporting, and this is the latest one up to date, November 28th. If there's interest, I'll go through it and outline what the trial looks like up to this point, because, it's an interesting trial, and it's probably, this person thinks it's going to be a much bigger deal than I think it will be, based on very big deals that I thought were going to shake the government to its core, Jody Wilson-Raybould, and turned out everybody kind of went, oh, well, whatever. Just give SNC Lavalin a DPA and it'll be fine. No problems. And here we are with the trial, but still. They can get a DPA right up until they're convicted, so they could still get a DPA, deferred prosecution agreement. It was made law in 2018 in an omnibus bill, 2018 budget bill. Snuck in. Look it up. I did videos about it. But I digress. If there's interest, I'll look closer at this, but if not, let me know as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. There's so many crazy things. Does it make sense to let dangerous people out? Does it make sense to let people out when they don't feel fit to be out as well? It doesn't make any sense to me. Does it make sense to focus on the opposition leader when we've got a minority government and a prime minister who hasn't done anything since the election? Does this make sense? This push? It doesn't make sense to me. Nothing makes sense to me. Promote the failed diplomat? Yeah. Welcome to Canada, upside down world. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful day.